Hi everyone. Today we are going to be looking at the second property of exponents, which is going to be the power rule. So if you have not already gotten your notebook and a pencil, pause this video, make sure you're all set up before pressing play. So when we are looking at the power rule, we are going to be looking at problems that are set up just like this. Let's say, for example, I have x squared to the power of 3. Now, we have been practicing our product rule, which we are looking at how many times the number is being multiplied by itself, but this time we have multiple of the same variables, so we're adding exponents. Power rule is slightly different. Let's say we don't really know what's inside of here. So let's say for a second, we don't know. What we do know is that whatever is inside here is being multiplied by itself 3 times. So it'd be this times itself again times itself again. So if we go ahead and put back what was originally here, the x squared, we know that x squared is being multiplied by itself 3 times. And if we were to expand what we have here, it would be x times x times x times x times x times x. X being multiplied by itself 6 times. This tells us that we are no longer adding exponents. Instead, we are going to be multiplying. So, power rule tells us that x to the power of a raised to the power of b is going to be x to raise to the power of a times b. We are multiplying. Let me go ahead and zoom in so that we can see a little bit more clearly. We are multiplying our exponents. Not to be confused with product rule, where we added our exponents. So it's slightly different. Let's go ahead and see a little side by side. So I'm just going to go ahead, let's choose a different color. Here is my new power rule. And to recap, our product rule tells us that if I had x to the power of a being multiplied by another x to the power of b, then I would add them. That was my little cat Minnie. You heard her little meow. So for this, we would be adding exponents. Let's practice. So I'm going to leave the rules up there. Let's take a look at this first practice. X to the power of 4 all raised to the power of 2. So we have an exponent, and this whole thing is being raised by another exponent. We're going to get x raised to the power of 8 because we're multiplying. Now, you always have the option to expand in order to be able to see it a little bit more clearly in case you forget. So here's what I mean by that. We know that this whole thing is being raised by itself 2 times. So you can always just expand it. It's this whole thing times itself 2 times. Well, what's on the inside? It's x to the power of 4. And now, if you added 4 plus 4, you would get 8. Let's try another one. What about if we had something like this? Now, when you have a coefficient that's being raised by a power, you must distribute that power to everything on the inside, which means it doesn't become 3 times 3. Instead, it becomes 3 to the power of 3. X to the power of 6 because we're multiplying. 3 to the power of 3 is 3 times 3 times 3, which means we get 27 x to the power of 6. So, to recap, if you have an exponent right here being raised by another, you're going to distribute and multiply. A coefficient is going to get treated the same way. We're raising it to that power. Now you try one on your own. Let's look at 5x to the power of 8, all raised to the power of 2. Go ahead and pause this video right here and go ahead and try this one on your own. All right, so just like in the previous problem, we are going to take our power of 2 and distribute it to the 5 and that little 8 exponent. When you do that, you will get 5 squared, x to the power of 16 because we are multiplying. And because we know what 5 squared is already, I'm just going to go ahead and evaluate that to get 25x 16. Good. Let's try one more in this video, and it's going to be a little bit of a challenge problem. We are going to combine both the power rule that we are learning today and the product rule that we learned in the last video. Let's take a look at a problem, 3x squared, y to the power of 4. And I'm going to take all of this and multiply it by 2x squared, y, all of that raised to the power of 3. Now, for this problem, just like with order of operations where you're looking at parentheses and exponents, we're going to start there with this type of problem too. This first part of the problem is not being raised to anything. So we're going to leave it like that. And we're going to focus on this first and try to clean that up. I'm going to use our newly learned power rule. I'm going to take this little 3 and I'm going to distribute it to the 2, the coefficient, the exponent 2, and hopefully you saw that there's an invisible little 1 right there. Now, when I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite this original side just so that I don't forget about it. The 2 becomes 2 to the power of 3. X, hopefully you wrote to the power of 6. Y to the power of 3. Okay. Now that we've already distributed and we've done our power rule, we're going to go back and practice our product rule. Pause the video here and see if you can figure this out on your own. All right, so with product rule, multiply your coefficients. Well, actually, before we do that, I can simplify this. This 2 cubed is going to become 2 times 2 times 2. So we're going to multiply 3 times to get 8. And now we can multiply. 3 times 8 gives us 24. X squared, and this x6, we're going to add the 2 and the 6 to get x to the power of 8. Y to the power of 4 and y to the power of 3, add them to get y to the power of 7. We did our power rule, we did our product rule, and now we have our final answer. And that's it. Go ahead and make sure you have all this written down, and now you can move on to the iExcel practice. Use the notes to help you, and we will go over it in class tomorrow. Thanks for watching.